Hello everyone and welcome back to Battletech Advanced 3062, and our Irby Derby campaign has now taken us into Clan Space, providing an excellent opportunity to fight against frontier units working for Clan Wolf. So we have on visuals I suppose, a King Crab, a Gargoyle, and an Executioner, so a very, very heavy lance, all assault mechs, and that's just one of the two opposition lances that we expect to see today. These are technically, I think, the Clan Wolf reinforcements that we're facing directly ahead of us right now, and the main, well, I guess they're both main objective lances, but the primary lance is not yet on visuals or sensors. So we do have quite a fearsome attack coming in from the Executioner on our own Centurion right off the bat, but a little bit of a double-edged sword, so he misses completely, which is a wonderful thing because we had our rear armor exposed to this Executioner. But he's cooking himself, and this Executioner has to be careful because even though he has Clan Pharaoh, which I believe has built-in case 1, there are still 2 racks of MG ammunition which could explode and easily take off part of an arm, well, just as a starting point anyway. So we are going to reserve again and once more, and this is because I don't want them to be able to really get off much of their firepower on our units without evasion on the first round. So we're going to turn this to our own advantage here, if we can. Gargoyle moving up, firing in. Okay, so we do take a little bit of damage. Looks like a little bit of accidental fire going in on our Marauder. And you know what? We'll go ahead and move the Marauder up. I think that's a fine thing. And we'll put those plasma rifles, all 4 of them, right on target if we can with the Executioner. Called shot. It's going for a headshot because, you know, may as well try for it. And that mech is absolutely toasty, so shut down to prevent overheat, and we've since pumped even more heat into it. Not exactly what that fellow would have had in mind, is my guess. And I'm perfectly content leaving that mech there, just completely on fire, because he won't be able to fire most of his guns, and if he does, then, well, it won't exactly do much for him. So we do have the Hardshell Crab, Chancellor running the Hardshell Crab, and not much firepower in here. So I think this is the only other mech that we're going to use to pound firepower into the Executioner. And again, we're just looking for a lucky head cap here if we can get it. I think that was maybe one. Oh, yeah, okay, so we did have a head hit there. Pilot consciousness check was passed, but, oh, I actually think we hit him twice. Yeah, only 10 left on the dome piece of that mech, and we can certainly try to change that. So, well, the Centurion's not a good one to do it with. Our Atlas is not a good one to do it with. The Orion could. The rotary AC-5 would do tremendous work. So you know what? I know I said we're going to leave that mech alone, but I think the called shot there is too good of a chance to let up. And if we don't kill him, well, then he might well explode on the next turn anyway. So there's really not all that much lost. Only firing in 3 rounds on that rotary AC-5. Just conserve a little bit of ammunition there, and the Executioner is well and clearly not having a good time in this engagement. Unfortunately, no other head hits, and I think we will leave it at that. We can move the crab in the next turn before that Executioner will have a chance to go, so we can follow up there. And even those medium lasers, if they ping into that now exposed CT, will do a fair amount of damage, to say the least. So the King Crab has an AC-20, Gargoyle Ultra AC-10, which I do want to salvage, so let's see where that is. Is it right side? That is right arm, so I don't want to shoot at the right side of this mech. I want to kill him from the front or the side, which means that our Centurion is going to be firing in linked fire mode. I think is fine, right at the King Crab. Lots of good contact. That's exactly what I like to see. And okay, let's get our Atlas. Well, you know, do we even need the bracing cockpit? No, I think we want direct fire first, so we can bring those light PPCs online. We have very nice accuracy, although it would have been improved had we done the bracing cockpit just a little bit. But this is good enough for right now. And we're hoping that those Thunderbolt missiles, one of them does miss with an 84% chance, another one of the light PPCs missing with an 84% chance to hit, so yeah, that's always fun. But we stack on a lot of stability damage, which is exactly what you want to see for this part of an engagement against a mech that heavy. So let's fire in now, and I think we'll go with normal just to add a little bit of narc to that King Crab. All of our SRMs, of course, firing away and knocking down the crab. It looks like we even got in a head hit, although rather accidental. that time around. You can, of course, just roll them naturally, although it is relatively rare. Exposed structure in the left leg, yeah, is a single SRM that hit that, so it's really not that helpful for us. But now we do have our own King Crab, who's going to move up and give pretty good answer for the attempted fire they put on us the last time. Now, I'm not really interested in this King Crab. It's a model that I already have. The AC-20s aren't that interesting. Now, what you might notice is that we do only have one rotary Gauss rifle, and that's because the other one was busted on a previous mission. It's been replaced by a single clan Gauss rifle and some other hardware updates, including triple light PPC that's now running on this mecha as well. And as you can notice, the heat isn't even all that high. More than enough damage to core right through that King Crab, and that's the first casualty of the day. Now, of course, these being clan lances in the opposition, we have 10 mechs in total that we need to destroy, now down to 9, I suppose. Let's go ahead and move the Hardshell Crab up. His job is to get close and to get shot at, so that other mechs don't take damage, because it's the other mechs that I really care about. Unfortunately, not able to land that last headshot, so the Executioner is still up. And now we do have to kind of worry about it on this side of things again. So I think what we're going to do, we're going to move the Marauder up, and we'll use a second volley to really just push that heat completely crazy over the line. And yeah, that was a core out and a head cap. Only one salvageable part. It's a little bit unfortunate, but we should have saved most of the electronics, the ER medium lasers and such, that weren't destroyed in that last volley. Anyway, that's the hope. There is, of course, much more clan tech on the field, so it's not really any great tragedy if some of that was lost. And let's go ahead and fire in with the SRM-6s. Yeah, we'll do it regular narc. So the rear angle shots, not really the best way of making sure to get that Ultra AC-10, but I'm hoping, again, to kill the core of the mech and salvage the arms. Well, specifically not really the arms, more of the armaments on the arms if I can get there. I don't really care about the heavy large lasers. ER mediums would be very nice to have clan variants, which of course right now I do not have those available. And let's see, where can we get, yeah, that's a decent shot. Let's go from here. We are going to be going with the linked behavior again. A little bit of a risky shot for friendly fire, don't love that angle, and yep, a single missile does go in and hit our dervish, but we've cored out that mech now, and hopefully we'll be able to, oh, 5 salvageable parts. Very nice. We must have not completely cored him out then, because that will of course bring you down to only 1 salvageable left. And the Kingfisher, which does appear to be a bit of a laser boat, will be a problem. Those heavy large lasers, of course, can deal quite a bit of damage, and that's not something we really want to tangle with if we can avoid it. Reserving now, just to let everything else move up, and I'm relatively happy with this, right? We were facing, admittedly, only 3, so they were a little bit isolated, but we were facing 3 different clan mechs, all in the assault range, and we handled them, I think, very efficiently. Minimal number of turns, minimal waste. So let's fire in with Kingfisher, well, with our King Crab at the Kingfisher. Quite a lot of damage landed there, most of the Gauss rifle shots landing in, of course, heavy armor on the Kingfisher as well, and there's another Executioner, at this time the Prime configuration, which does of course carry a Gauss rifle, and I believe several large pulse lasers. So that's all coming online, and this seems to be the tail end of the reinforcement lance. Yes, it would appear to be, and yes, double ER large, not large pulse. I suppose I should have assumed that based off of the range. Now, we do have to move our Atlas up. Ordinarily, I would want to have turned on the bracing cockpit at this point, but considering we can't even see the main lance, they should be coming to us over from this direction. We need to get a little bit of motion, I think, on the way with our Atlas. We will pop Battlelord for the damage and accuracy, moving us up to nearly 80% on everything, and let's fire in. Very nice damage coming in there, and I'm quite happy with that. I think it's a good start. Any indirect fire beats no indirect fire, and it's something that I tend to personally overlook a lot of the time, just because I'm a big fan of several of the direct fire options. For example, I love ultra autocannons, particularly ultra autocannon 5s and 10s, and I am a big fan of large engines and SRM 6s, which is not exactly, well, not exactly the longest range armament, one might say. They are literally called short-range missiles. But, you know, even mildly curmudgeonly dogs can learn new tricks. So, I'm giving it a shot. We will get a height advantage and a size delta advantage from this elevated firing position on the Executioner Prime. And just to go ahead and take a look at that, target moved is currently giving a +10 to difficulty, and we're mitigating 5 with the height difference and 3 with the size delta, and then an additional 6 from an expert pilot with called shot, which is what allows this to be such a high accuracy firing position and a very good salvo. That is something that you definitely want to go ahead and use. It's interesting. In World War II in particular, I think, although slightly in World War I as well, and since then, of course, there's been an establishment of something called the reverse slope advantage, which is basically the idea that, particularly with guns, and particularly with heavier guns, there's sometimes an advantage to being at the bottom of the hill instead of the top, which is a little bit, I mean, that goes against tradition, really, with the idea being always hold the high ground. This is, of course, what Obi-Wan used to defeat Anakin. I couldn't help it. I wanted to not do that, but I couldn't help it. But with guns, being on the bottom of a hill can preserve some of your own safety, making you a harder target to hit, while making your opponent have to expose his entire torso and arms just to see you. So this, for example, that Executioner would be harder for us to see and target, and of course from his position he'd be able to see 90% of our mech. So in theory, he should have an easier firing position than we do. A little bit of a quirk there. I mean, we can debate whether or not it's realistic in the BattleTech universe. Of course, not the most realistic thing on its own anyway, although much as I do love it, it is not exactly rooted in reality at all times, shall we say. For one thing, this sort of mech system of warfare would be extremely cost inefficient, I would imagine. Particularly because we know that in the lore there are such things as weapons of mass destruction, which other weapons kind of pale in comparison to. And I know this mechs were originally conceived as a sort of compromise to prevent WMDs from being in use. Not the original invention, say, but certainly the popularization in the BattleTech canon. After some particularly deadly wars, I think the First Succession War started off with just incredible amounts of WMDs, which has actually made each successive war, at least through at least the third, maybe not the fourth, at least not to my knowledge, progressively less dangerous, which is rather ironic. Alright, let's see. Let's just go for a leg. We have 70% chance to hit. May as well. And I've been on a tangent long enough. Thunderbolts go in. Not much hitting that 70% chance to hit leg right there, so it is unfortunately still up. But the Kingfisher himself does go down. Of course, light PPCs, like their standard cousins, do deal some stability damage, and we didn't need very much to tip that guy over. Now here's the thing. If we can kill this mech before his allies have a chance to shoot, we should eliminate the opponent's visibility. They will no longer have a solid target and no longer be able to fire on us until they reestablish visual contact, which of course is being provided basically right now by this Kingfisher. So that is the goal. We want to kill this guy before reserving down, which is why I'm not actively doing that right now. And the Marauder, unfortunately, plasma rifles don't have the longest range. They're not short range, but they're not exactly, well, spectacularly high range. So we have to close a little bit and anticipate closing with the reinforcement lance. And I'm just not able to kill this guy, not yet anyway. That's going to be a bit of a problem. Let's get the Dervish down on a little bit lower ground. Of course, now we don't need to deal with that enemy move +5, given that the Kingfisher is on his back. And let's fire in. Let's go back to the Haywire. And yep, that's the kill that I was hoping for. SRMs, as usual, proving very effective at killing exposed structure. Well, critting, I guess, exposed structure. So Centurion is also going to move down. We have two SRM-6s on here that I would like to replace with other things, but, yeah, tech and time providing, which it has thus far not. So we have eyes on two of the main Clan Wolf Lance. There's a 70-tonner and an 80-ton vehicle. Let's see what else they can bring forward. It looks like it'll be decently heavy if nobody moved before priority 4 or so, which isn't the worst thing for us. As we've just proved, we can kind of deal with that relatively effectively. Of course, Battletech Advanced 3062 does increase the viability of lighter mechs, both through the size delta and through the rework on evasion pips, making it so that they no longer go away when a mech is fired upon. Which, I understand the reason that it was done like that for the vanilla game balance, but it did make it so that, unfortunately, by the end of the game, there was really no viable way of fielding light or even really lightly armored medium mechs with any sort of semblance of success. So we'll let them move forward again if they so choose. I think that 70-tonner, the AI being, well, the AI has decided to just sit there, which means we're going to get a height advantage and not have to worry about evasion pips to put fire on that mech. And I think they're kind of, and I would say erroneously, waiting for us to come to them. So if I move down here, yes, I should be able to get a sensor lock on that target. See what mech he is too, it'll be a little bit interesting. 70-tonner, and that's a Royal Warhammer, so not a clan mech. Shouldn't be any clan tech in there either, and there is in fact not. Which means I don't give a flying fig about the survival of this mech. So we're going to test out our Atlas at extreme range, and yeah, okay, we're outside the range of the light PPCs, but the Thunderbolts can still fire in. There we are. We can, of course, have I reworked the pilot abilities? Yes. So the pilot abilities on El Duce have been changed following now the gunnery path, which allows choosing what position we want to concentrate fire at with a precision strike. And since this guy, I don't really care about him, we are going to target his CT, just try and core this mech out completely. 70% chance to have each one of these missiles land in. 1, 2, 3, and 4. There are anti-missile systems that were firing at the Thunderbolts, but, well, Thunderbolts have increased missile health, I guess you would call it. So each AMS shot that lands on it, from my understanding, would deal only 1 damage, and it has to hit about 6 or 7 times to actually kill the missile. This is, of course, to make up for the fact that that Thunderbolts, unlike most missile systems, don't rely on high volume of fire. It actually makes SRMs particularly vulnerable to anti-missile systems, as they deal high damage but at short range, and of course there are smaller numbers of them than something like a LRM barrage or something like that. So archers with, say, LRM 40 aren't really going to be challenged except by the most extreme AMS systems, probably overclocked as well. And SRMs are even more vulnerable than things like Thunderbolts, despite the fact that they can fire, 2, 4, or 6 as opposed to just 1. So Royal Warhammer is taking an absolute beating. We've exposed his CT, but been unable to follow up with a sufficient kill. In part, that's because of Warhammer Rugged, which does, of course, increase the structure on that mech, but a lot of it's just that we're scattering damage all around the armor on that guy, which is not exactly what I'd had in mind. The Dervish is out of range, his SRMs cannot be used, so we're going to pop Vigilance. Yeah, I know the Mech Warrior Max has low spirits, but that's alright. We don't care about morale here. Do as you're told or you don't get paid. So, I think this will be the end of our turn. Yep, and now we have the Crab who can move down even more. We'll get a forward scouting position and hopefully draw fire, which of course is fire that we're expecting him to be able to take. 1, 2, 3 different vehicles, fire support vehicle, clan LRMs and ER larges, piercing Gauss rifle, that needs to die right now. Actually, that needs to die, so what that'll do is it'll damage internal structure, which will of course put us in the repair bay after this, but it also runs the chance of critting things through armor. So that vehicle and that gun need to die right now. So we're going to have Dervish move up and put the Narc launcher back on normal. Hopefully we can mark the target of that command tank. 75% chance that we do get 2 volleys, so we do in fact actually land both of them. The effect, I believe, is only applied once, which is only fair after all. And let's see if we can get... that's a shot. Yeah, okay. So our Marauder, 70% chance to hit, and of course, dealing heat damage, the plasma rifles will deal twice their stated damage. If they make contact, Precision Strike raises up to 93% chance to hit, and the clustering rules are not great, so we're going to try to just go through the front. I know there's more armor here, actually considerably more armor, so there'll be 300 instead of 205, but I've had bad luck, even with the stated 45% chance, trying to shoot for one side or the other, and then the next turn the command tank can just position himself away from it. Of course, if we pound through the front, we'll have an easier time making sure that we can continue shooting on that position. So that looks like it did open up structure, and yeah, 29 left. We pounded right through. If all four had hit in the front, that would have been a dead vehicle. Unfortunately, it was not. And we do have a shot from here, so let's go ahead and line up the Centurion, see if we can take that. This hopefully will get it done. It will kind of depend on... You know what, we're going to put this on split. We don't need that much damage in here, so even one getting through should kill. Yep, dead command tank. Beautiful. So we've taken the piercing Gauss off the field. If it's available in salvage, I will probably pick it up because it is, well, it's amusing if nothing else, and can certainly be effective if used properly. Piercing itself is something that is relatively rare. There were piercing SRMs that I have available because of the fight against the BTA custom mechs on Terra. We take out the Royal Warhammer, and you know, if I get enough piercing equipment, we could make a sort of gimmick mech with just strictly piercing weaponry, able to make good crits on all of our opponents off the first volley. Potentially a good disabler. It's a different take on it. I usually rely on heat, particularly plasma rifles, for disabling my opponents, but that is not always the best. Oh, there's another one. God. Huh. Alright, so I wanted to shoot at the Morrigu because that's a lot of firepower, but there's another piercing Gauss rifle that we were barely lucky enough to dodge, it would appear. So, light fire going in on him. We'll take a fair bit of scattering. This time we've landed it all on that left torso, or left torso equivalent, which, I mean, that figures, right? We have a frontal firing position. Nearly all of it clusters on the one side. And then my next volley will, of course, all go in on the front. Not guaranteed to be that way. We're actually outside of the range of our Thunderbolts, which is kind of impressive considering their range brackets are very, very generous. So we have to move forward and just pop a Vigilance to get everyone motivated for the next go-around. It looks like all three remaining up for our vehicles. It's a little disappointing. The main clan tech lance was actually the support lance, but that happens from time to time, and I think we can chew through these guys quickly and efficiently if we try. So I do want now to draw fire the crab. Not enough luck there to get a kill. No evasion pips will mean that that crab should get targeted decently heavily, and my first priority is taking out that piercing Gauss rifle. We're going to reserve to 4, and then hope to use the Orion. If I can get a little closer. No, not great accuracy, no matter what I do. Let's go ahead and use a precision strike, see if we can get lucky here. Only need 1 or 2 shots. Is that enough? No. So we've opened up the side structure on that command tank and damaged it, but it's just barely hanging on, kind of obnoxious. See if we can follow up with Ridgehound. A very flexible build on Ridgehound. I actually really do like it. I had meant to put something ballistic back on the arm, but this has been growing on me. I think there's a lot of utility, even if it does run a little bit hotter than previously. And there goes the command tank. Bit of a waste of a precision strike, but better safe than sorry. 2 tanks left between us and a Payday that is weighted actually towards salvage, so I'm not really expecting that we'll get too much. We could pick up a clan mech if we're very lucky, but I'm not usually too lucky with my random salvage picks. This one I think was taken for 312, so generous but not extraordinarily so. Looks like 3 of the plasma rifle shots landed. Excellent damage coming in from those as always. One of my favorite guns in the entire setting, or at least in the game here. I think probably the setting as well. Alright, let's narc the Morrigu. We're splitting fire a little bit, but that's because I didn't really have an angle on the other vehicle. Okay, so how far forward do I have to move? There. Okay. It's not great. Let's try and Battle Lord. Next turn we can engage the bracing cockpit and fire away. Thunderbolts do have good potential to bust through armor, and the light PPCs, of course, adding a decent follow-up. Yeah, lots of good work done there, and that's vehicle is definitely not thrilled. At least, one would think not. So the Mars, Streetcaster M6's Clan Gauss. He is a bit more deadly, we also have a better shot. Less chance to kill him, but you can always hope. Wouldn't take much. Structure exposed, but no kill. It's unfortunate. He'll probably hide his damaged side now, at least he will if he's smart. And our Orion is still drawing fire instead of the hardened crab, which is a little bit surprising. Could just be size delta, although that's a relatively heavy vehicle, and I don't know if those work the same way for their size delta effects. Okay. Both tanks not really getting anything great done. Ace Pilot, of course. I thought that had a different name with vehicles, but it might still show up as the same on the actual battlefield. Who knows? Let's fire in. 2 shots landing on the exposed structure, but not a kill. Gauss ammunition destroyed. Not enough. Not enough. Okay, let's bring the Centurion. There we go. That got through just barely. We had a couple SRMs that did land in exactly where we wanted them to. Let's get the Orion online now. We only have 3 shots left in the Rack 5, but that's okay. We're at the end of our mission. It is something to be cautious with on larger drops. Say if we're expecting to fight 3 to 4 lances, we'll have to be judicious with our use of that rotary AC5. But for something like this, it's, well, we got as much use out of it as we could, clearly. 4 plasma rifle shots, hopefully this will end it, and yep, there we go. Alright, that's the mission for today. Thank you all for hanging around, and we'll see you again real soon.